Hey YouTube, this is a response to Mark B, or smokinhornsbbq's video series on making a barbecue, or a smoker. This is my project that I started probably about a month ago. It's a 60-gallon air compressor tank and a 25-gallon propane tank. Got dual smokestacks. I mounted the propane tank behind the smoke tank with the smoke chamber. Ended up being a little bit of a different design than I had started out with, but it seems to have worked out. So come on in, I'll show you the details. Main smoke chamber, the handle, counterweight, got two thermometers on here, so I can make sure the temperature's even, dual smokestacks. So inside, really just have a single grate right now. What I plan to do for modification is to create another frame that just has some bar coming up and across the top that I can hang sausage and wieners from for roasting. That's basically just square tube with the wire mesh on top, a couple of handles made out of 3/8 inch rebar. Inside you can see my supports for the grill. You can see the smoke tubes coming from the firebox. Some angle iron welded to the top of that just to act as a heat sink and to make sure that nothing drips down inside of those tubes. You can see the smoke stacks are penetrating a little bit, but not too much. That's it for the smoke chamber. A nice rack on the front, just angle iron with the wire mesh welded to the bottom of it. Dropped a towel rack on the bottom out of 1/2 inch rebar and some angled supports for that as well. 1/2 inch rod for the handle just to pull it around. My initial design was to have just rear wheels on it and lift it up like a normal barbecue grill, and I ended up having to adapt that to put 4 casters on it. It just got too heavy, and also ended up pushing the 2 legs out a little bit farther to be under that firebox because the weight was too heavy in the back. So legs were a bit of a challenge on this, partly because I was doing it myself, and partly because I tried building the legs onto the chamber rather than building the legs first and then just setting the chamber onto them. I probably had better luck doing that. My vents on the smoke chamber kind of came up with a simple little design where I basically just welded a little piece of 1/2 inch black pipe inside and welded a 1/2 inch rod onto the bottom, and that just simply sits in there and easily pivots so I can control how much that's open and it won't tip out. Nice little handle on there to keep it cool. On the firebox, basically this 25-pound propane tank. Built the handle up to the side. You see the grate in here. Use 2x3 tubing to carry the heat and the smoke into the smoke chamber. This is the grill. Again, just square tubing and wire mesh on it. And it just comes right out. My supports. I have an ash dump down here that I can remove and let the ashes out. And this is my propane assembly that I also got from Smoking Horns video on how to do it. Did a little bit different than Mark did in his. He basically, I think he had a similar connection. This is a 25-pound propane tank, so it had a 3/4 inch threading on the top. And I just welded a nipple onto that, so I had 3/4 inch tubing coming in on both ends, whereas Mark just kind of routed it out so he could send a pipe all the way through. Mark had a better idea because this really limits my connectivity. So this works pretty well. I can turn it on. I ended up drilling holes in the tube instead of cutting slices. log fire starter. spend a lot of time trying to start a fire. Basically just light this up. I really have too many holes in my Vorloff, or my input here, so if I block some of these holes I actually get a little more yellow flame, which is what you want to actually start your fire. So I'll just have to block a couple of these holes when I actually go to use it. Otherwise this thing looks like it's doing exactly what it's intended to do. So not much else of note on the firebox. I did have this door open down so that I can have a more compact form factor. Open it away from the main smoke box. I guess the other damper control, Mark had some ideas on using a C-clamp. I thought, well, I'll just do the same thing. This design basically just really uses a C-clamp. I welded it directly to the cap, and I can have a lot of finite control opening this. I'm thinking these will probably go away at some point and I'll come up with a different design. It's just a little tedious to sit here and try and open these by cranking them out. So I might end up doing something a little bit different, but they'll work. I haven't done a burn yet, so haven't had to really mess with them, but they work okay. Again, I'm just using the cutout that I used when I cut for the tube, flattened it out, rounded it out, and made it the cap. Again, you can see the casters here. I had to move the legs out, do a little reinforcement on the end here to support the leg weight. This leg I had to shim a little bit, but otherwise everything seems to be in good shape. This is just a rough coat of paint on here right now. I still have to do a couple of coats with the brush on paint, the high temp paint. And again, back on the front, the last couple things were the dual thermometers, and then I put in a ball flow valve to clean it out. So close that when I'm smoking and can open it when I'm ready to clean it out. So that's it. This is all again inspired by Mark at smokinhornsbbq, and it's been a fun project, and took a lot longer than I expected. Thought I'd knock it out in a weekend or two. It's been pretty much a month of all my spare time, so if you feel like tackling this, playing lots of time, there's lots of details that take a lot of time, but looks like a fun project. Looks like it should work, and I'll get back to you after I fired it up and cook some meat on it. Alright, thanks.